Yeah, good afternoon. First, I want to thank Madame Helga Zepler-Rouge for inviting me to give a talk about a topic which is close to my heart, but probably not that well known to you. And you will see there are some good connections to the overall theme of this conference at the end of my talk. So this talk was good enough? Can you hear me? Okay. Was prepared together with Jean-Michel Conton. You will see him on some of the pictures. And first I want to talk about who we are and what we do, and then what we changed to do better and more. The Academy was founded in 1960 with von Karman, and he is probably known to you as one of the space pioneers leading the CALCIT project in Pasadena, now JPL. And it is an independent international community of individuals, 1,200 active leading experts, and 1,700 from 89 nations, recognized by the UN in 1996. And the membership is based on strong competition, though it's not easy to join. The aims of IAA are foster the development of astronautics for peaceful purposes, recognize individuals who have distinguished themselves in space and science technology, to provide a program through which members may contribute to international endeavors and promote international cooperation and the advancement of aerospace science. And I want to stress the fact that it's an association of individuals. They can live their dreams and work on subjects which are not maybe in the interest of the entities they are coming from, industry or organizations or so on. They are really free to work as individuals. Leadership is through a high-ranking board of trustees. For instance, 11 heads or former heads of space agencies are involved in that board of trustees. We do have 6 commissions covering all aspects of space activities: basic science, engineering science, life science, social sciences. And it is the gap for the missing fora where the best experts in all domains can meet, know each other, and exchange their opinions. And that is really true, I can assure you. We do have regional secretariats in 30 regions. One of them in Syria. In Syria, we have a regional secretary, Dr. Hussein Ibrahim, who was a former general director of GORS, the General Organization of Remote Sensing. And it's not well known, but Syria had a cosmonaut in space. And it had a good space program, but nowadays, of course, it's a problem. And he's still a good friend of mine, but he couldn't come to Germany in the last years because of visa problems. He obviously does not belong to the group of people which Madame Merkel invited to come to Germany. So he was always refused a visa. And Madame Shaban talked about this interesting site, historical site in Syria. And it crossed my mind that when I was first in Syria, I was brought to that site. And I was excited about the history and the architecture. You can't hear me? No, I have to adapt to that. And I made a proposal that time, 15 years ago, to use remote sensing techniques and information technology techniques to make that site, the experience available to people outside of Syria in an adaptive way, in an interactive way. Yeah, so I have some good connections to Syria as well. Some glimpse of who is a member. And I selected some pictures which show the firsts. First, man in space, Yuri Gagarin, is member of our academy. By the way, that is the Secretary General of the Academy. The first woman in space, Valentina Tereshkova. The first space walker, Alexei Leonov. Here the first Explorer 1 from the United States with the IAA academicians William Pickering, James Van Allen, and Werner von Braun. They are all Academy members. The first man on moon with Neil Armstrong here, Buzz Aldrin. And it's close to 50 years ago. Imagine that, 50 years ago, we went to the moon. And it's still an object of dreams. So the first world record we have in space with 1.5 year, Valery Polyakov. And of course, connected with the Silk Road, the Yang Liwei, the first Chinese astronaut, or taikonaut as they call it. So we deal with studies and conferences. 18 to 20 IAA standalone conferences yearly. You have some glimpses here from Beijing, Bangalore, Moscow, and Fukuoka. In Berlin as well, conferences. We do actually 42 studies in preparation. What you see here is what's already printed, dealing with different subjects, space-related subjects. We are in publishing house since 2012 with book series connected to small satellites, programs, missions, technologies, and applications, to remote sensing of the Earth system, including science, technology, and applications, and proceedings of IAA conferences. We have a dictionary, free to be used. The last two contributions are Gaelic language and Afrikaans, always in connection with English, French, and German. And at our 50th anniversary, we decided to do something different or something more, not just the academic activities, but to give the public and large more output from our activities. And so we decided to build up a summit of the heads of space agencies, discussing about possibilities in cooperation in 4 subjects: human spaceflight, planetary robotic exploration, climate change and green systems, and disaster management and natural hazard. And the background for these themes and for this initiative is that there are many current corporations aging. ISS was initiated 20 years ago. That time with 8 countries, and in that time only half of the current space agencies existed. More than half did not exist. Russia and USA cannot taxi any longer exclusively to space, and a few corporations with new space emerging countries have been established, but it's by far not enough. So the question now was, during that summit, how to balance new aspirations and challenge solving with existing programs, budgets, and national interests and needs. They are very different from big countries to the emerging countries. How to cooperate with larger numbers of partners, how to build confidence, trust, transparency, how to share best practices, and how to ensure the safe and responsible use of space. So Academy is just a kind of catalyst. We are not the executive. We just can bring people together and try to have them work together. But we are trying to work on concrete projects, studies and pilot projects in the four areas I mentioned before to prepare space cooperation for the new generations. You know, that's a cultural change. It's the situation we are facing right now is inherent in us, so we cannot jump over our shadows, but we have to prepare for the future. So that was the historic 30 heads of space agency in Washington in November 2010 in relation to our 50th anniversary. And you see people sitting there side by side and giving their agreement to the big idea of cooperation. Here you see a glimpse in the flavor of the spirit in that conference. The Vietnamese guy, Pham Tuan, shaking hands with Charlie Bolden, the big guy. That wouldn't happen before. I hope it is an indication of what is happening in the future. So the goal for this summit was to reach a broad consensus on international cooperation at the highest level and encourage new concrete initiatives of cooperation in the four areas I mentioned before. And these four areas have been prepared in IAA studies before. You see here, for instance, the study Space Applications in Climate Change and Green Systems, the need for international cooperation. And this is also true for the three other areas, for instance, the future planetary robotic exploration, the need for international cooperation, human spaceflight, disaster management. These are broad themes. They have to be broken down to tasks which can be acted on from both sides, the big guys, the smaller guys, and really task-relevant things have to be brought in a form you can work on it. So this prioritization has been done in 2011, and then we have a steering group and coordination groups for all the different topics, the four different topics I mentioned before, and we are now in the phase of concrete actions, and we are discussing now with 40 plus space agencies to make it happen. There are a couple of follow-on conferences and meetings in 2012, for instance, in Kiev and Mysore, Naples, for instance, 14 heads of space agencies meeting and talking about specific topics. And the recent milestones we had was on more specific topics. We have four main topics, and these four main topics are for different kind of agencies. I mean, the developing countries are not that much involved right now in robotic missions and human space exploration, but climate change and disaster management is a topic. So the first milestone was in January 2014, related to planetary, robotic, and human spaceflight exploration in Washington again. And that was the occasion where I had the opportunity and the pleasure to meet Madame Helga Sepp-Larouche the first time personally. So that is a glimpse on the situation there. These are all heads of space agencies meeting and working together, at least talking together. The working together is still a phase, it's in the implementation, but it takes some time to make it really happen. And you know, everybody has his own budget, his own ideas, his own focus points. So that needs to be aligned and synchronized and so on. It takes time, but it's on a way. The second milestone for the two remaining parts, climate change and disaster management, took place in September in Mexico City, in Mexico. And this process is going on, discussing with more than 40 heads of space agencies and breaking it down to the working level. I'm fine. So, concluding, IAA is a unique elite body to be catalyst for new-scale cooperation together to space, to enrich all on Earth. And the intention is to convince political decision makers to imagine space cooperation for the new generation's need, to conclude and release new reports, and to make concrete proposals that the summit follow-on can leverage. And I'm convinced that this topic fits pretty much into the thematic of this conference, and I hope I could give you an insight in what's going on in that area, space area, which is for most people on Earth a more exotic one, but it's not exotic. It's our daily life which is connected to space, and you don't even know what's going on and what you use from space. And I hope I could convey to you at least the idea in cooperation and peaceful cooperation, and bring a positive point to this discussion after the mainly not so good results we have heard about in Syria and other countries right now. Thank you very much.
Thank you.